Wow, can you believe that we are already on chapter 3? Thanks for hanging in there, guys. I know there were some issues with Canvas, and I'm just really excited that hopefully those are fixed by now and we're just moving on. So, chapter 3 is cool because it's about paralegals and what they do in a law office. And you're just so smart for taking this class because if you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is the entity of the government that keeps track of employment, you can click on this in your regular PowerPoint and it'll take you to the link where it says we're going to have 17% job growth, which is just so exciting. You know, an area where there are jobs being created. Yes. Now, paralegals cannot practice law, but they can do a lot of other things. So practice of law is like conducting a deposition, talking in court. Paralegals can't do that. They can talk to the clients and intake them. They can start the paperwork for the attorney who then reviews it and files it. They can help with discovery, finding out about all the facts of the case. And they can help the attorney quite a bit by having contact with different clients and court personnel and making the attorney's life easier in that way. One of the exciting things that's happening is we're slowly seeing kind of a new type of paralegal called a triple LT, a limited legal law technician, who will be able to give some legal advice in specific areas once that gets passed, like immigration or family law. And so that's really exciting. Now, please always check the statistics yourselves and make sure that they're completely up to date. But this was the most recent one I got, and that was that the average annual wage for paralegals was this. Now, what that means is the ones that are starting and the ones that have been in the business for a long time are all averaged together. So that's not what you would probably make to start. One of the reasons I love being in law is because I actually get paid to be nosy. And one of the biggest things that you do as a paralegal is you really dig and you find out, one, if a defendant has any money and it's worth suing him, or you find out who the witnesses to the case were and you go hunt them down and bring them to court so they can testify. And so you're almost like a private investigator nowadays, but most of it's done online, and you can use some of those websites I've talked to you about in other ones of our PowerPoints. And things like looking at whether somebody's had a bankruptcy at the bankruptcy court. Sorry for the phone ringing in the background. Obviously, this is me in my office doing these. So this is one of my favorite videos, and you can click on it from the regular PowerPoint and see examples of people faking injuries, which is one of the things private investigators do in lawsuits, try to figure out if somebody's doing that. Obviously, you're not expected to go and videotape people, but you would be able to perhaps see their Facebook profiles, see if they've got lots of incriminating photos. Sometimes they have public profiles, so things like that you could do. Another big thing paralegals do is research the laws, and we have, for example, municipal codes here in Chula Vista, and they are quite different than other parts or other cities within San Diego County. Obviously, in North County, they've got Black Beach, so they have different laws about that and nudity on the beach. And then Chula Vista has a little bit different garage sale law than some other parts of town. So it's just interesting to see how our laws reflect our local society even. Okay, another thing that you do as a paralegal is discovery. And discovery is the official legal name, if you will, for being a snoop. This is what I was talking about. We get paid to be nosy. And I just love my job because it's like real life law and order. So there's different ways we get to ask for this information. There's oral, which is depositions typically, but that's done by an attorney. So you would be able to ask written questions, which are known as ROGs or interrogatories. You could ask for documents. You could ask somebody to admit or deny something. Like the example I gave you is, did you run the red light? Did you commit, some sort of vehicle code violation? That sort of thing. Okay, so paralegals do a lot of communications, and the biggest one by far that we learned from doing our employer focus group here in San Diego County is that you guys email a lot. And so I just want to let you know, one of the complaints that most attorneys have is that our paralegals don't always, and this is paralegals in general, not you guys specifically, because I know not all of you are going to become paralegals even, but just, really watching the grammar, the spelling, the tone, and the emails. And, it's interesting because I think clients do expect a little bit different tone than from the attorney. As an attorney, the client kind of expects that I'm going to be busy, I'm not going to have a lot of chit chat. I'm just going to cut to the chase and email them. And they want that from me because, at least most of them do, because I'm charging them, so they want short and to the point. But you guys, if you're paralegals, don't charge as much, and so they expect a little bit different tone from you. And we do like to use email and law. It is preferable to phone calls. It does have more of a paper trail, if you will, to it. And so in law, we're really big about covering our assets. So emails are huge still in law. So in California, the code that mainly refers to paralegals is the Business and Professions Code. So that refers to a bunch of different types of professions like law. I think even cosmetology is in there. And paralegals is one of them. And a paralegal can be employed by an attorney, a law firm, a corporation, government, and they typically work under the direction and supervision of an attorney. So that's kind of the official definition, if you will, of a paralegal. Now, this Business and Professions Code does outline things. We've already talked about the legal research. A little bit more about interviewing clients. Typically, you're going to do a phone call interview first and then have them come to the law office, bring their documents, bring their paperwork, make sure that they really have a case before you refer them to the attorney, because the attorney charges more. And the attorneys also want you to weed through clients and make sure that they're not meeting with a bunch of clients that aren't going to actually result in a case that they can file. What else do we need to talk about? We did talk about fact gathering. We talked about correspondence and, just anything, this collecting and compiling, it's just anything that helps the attorney. And it really just depends on the type of the law, and it also depends on the type of attorney. Sometimes paralegals can represent clients if it is like a board and not a court, so like workers' compensation board. That would be possible for you to become a hearing rep and represent clients. So that's an exciting thing. All right, and then what's nice about Business and Professions Code 6450 is that it also specifically says what you can and cannot do. So you can't give legal advice, and you can't go to court and represent somebody in court, which is different than a board. You can't solicit business for the attorney. And this is something that you do sometimes see paralegals getting asked to do in this town. It's not very common, but you will hear of it occasionally, and you are not really even allowed to do that for your attorney. So it's just something that you have to be concerned with for instance, like somebody could ask you for your attorney's business card, but you probably shouldn't be handing out your attorney's business card. So something just as minor as that little difference is the difference between doing something ethical or unethical. Okay, and also you can't really have law with financial services at the same time as well. It's very difficult to do properly and ethically. So just things to consider. All right, the same Business and Professions Code talks to us about the education that you need. And our institution does provide sufficient education for you to be billed as a paralegal. And in fact, you only actually have to have 24 semester units. Our program is longer than that, which I think better prepares you. So I highly recommend that you stay and complete your degree if that is in fact your goal. Okay. One of the exciting things I always want to be talking to you about is the ability you have to become a legal document assistant. And that is in limited areas where it's mainly just forms based, again, like family law and immigration. You become registered with the county and you pay a bond for insurance, which is about $1,000, and you can become a legal document assistant. The fee with the county is around $200. So about for $1,200 a year, you can be your own employer if you want, and work directly with clients. They need to tell you which form they want you to fill out for them, but then you can fill out the form for them and charge them directly, which is kind of an exciting thing to think of that you might be interested in. So if you have more questions, you can always ask me, but I've also provided you the link and that you can use from your regular PowerPoint. Okay, and then we only have a couple questions to really focus on in this chapter. And one thing that I want you to be getting, and that maybe your book didn't mention quite as much as it should have, is for question 2, what are possible future job prospects? And that's going to be a lot of legal support going online. So just something to start thinking about and being paying attention to in the news. All right, so this was a shorter one. So we're done a little bit before our, max 15 minutes that we get. As always, please email me, call me, Skype me, whatever you need so that I can help you. All right, take care.